our main goal is to launch campaigns, surveys, or actions in order to alert about the impacts of pesticides, but also to talk about the alternatives and to promote them. And we have a campaign that is specifically on pesticide-free towns and also organic products in canteens in France. So that's what I'm going to talk about it today. First, I wanted to show you some data regarding France. So we are the second user of pesticides at the European level. We used to be the first one, and since it's been a few months that we are the second one. Spain is the first one now. There are between 60,000 and 65,000 tons of pesticides that are spread each year in fields and also in non-agricultural spaces. But the non-agricultural spaces are between 5 and 8%. But there was a decrease for the last few years, so that shows that having more and more pesticide-free towns can work, and that it's been shown in the numbers. And there are also more and more victims in France, but also everywhere across Europe. There are farmers, of course, but also people that live near fields and vineyards, and also workers, gardeners. So it shows that we have to stop pesticides now. And also we have more and more scientific studies showing the links between pesticides and health. For example, if you're exposed to pesticides, you have 5 times more risks of developing Parkinson. So now I'm going to tell you a bit about the story of how we ended up having a lot of pesticide-free towns in France. First, it all started with in 2007, where we put into the law some objectives of reduction of pesticides at the national level. So we wanted to reduce by 50% the pesticides within 10 years. It didn't work for the agricultural spaces, but it's starting to work within the non-agricultural spaces. And there were also some towns that were pioneers in France because the mayors were really convinced about the links between pesticides and health, or because people got intoxicated with pesticides. So some towns started to reducing the use of pesticides, and they started to talk about it in conferences and everything. So it became more and more famous. And also citizens that were aware of the dangers of pesticides, they started asking their mayors and their elected people to reduce their use of pesticides. They started to tell them there are some other ways to do it. There are alternatives. You should do it. And some regions also started to develop some charters. For example, there are a lot of, I'm going to talk about it later, but there are more than 22 regions now that have charters for the towns. And if they reduce their pesticides by 50%, by 60, by 70, or if they are pesticide free, they got like 1B, 2Bs, 3Bs, and they can put a sign at the entrance of the city. So that works quite well also. And then here are some cases of pioneer towns. There are a lot of more, but here you can see different cities, such as Versailles, that is quite famous because of the castle. And they started being pesticide-free in 2005. And they started because they got 3 people burnt because of pesticides, because of the explosion of a pesticide tank. So they really realized that they had to stop it, and they decided to stop little by little. So they started with the green spaces, and then the roads, and then the cemeteries. Grande-Sainte, for example, is a city in the north, and it's a city where there are a lot of poor people, and it's also a city surrounded by dangerous industrial sites. So it wasn't easy for them to go pesticide free, but the mayor is really somebody convinced. He's from the Green Party, and he decided to stop pesticides in 2007, I think. And now they are pesticide free, and they have a lot of green spaces. They have shared gardens that are organically grown. Strasbourg also, it's a big city. They started a program in 2008, and now they are even going further because they declared that they were against neonicotinoids, for example, and they are trying to push the national government to ban them earlier than expected, because in France we'll ban the neonicotinoids in 2018, but with possibilities to use them until 2020. The Parisian region also has a lot of cities that are pesticide-free, and another example that is Lorraine. It's a really, really small city in France. It's in Brittany, in the west part of France. And they stopped using pesticides because one of the gardeners got intoxicated while spraying pesticides. And now they even have volunteers that are weeding because they're a small town, so they can, I mean, for them it's easier than for Strasbourg, I guess, but they have people helping them for free. And here are a few things they did to become pesticide-free. So the first thing they did is that they did a diagnosis. They identified all the spaces where they had to put pesticides, all the green spaces they had, all the roads where they had to do stuff, and they decided how many people worked for them and what their practices were, and then they define their new objectives. For example, in 2 years we want to reduce by 50%, in 5 years we want to be pesticide free. And they got help from the water agency to finance them. That's something that we have in France. We can call the public water agency to put money for the diagnosis. And they really communicated in advance, really early, to the citizens and also to the workers that they wanted to go pesticide free and that they will do it for their health because it was better. Because if you don't tell the citizens, then they might take it in a bad way or they might be against it. So they really raised awareness among citizens, but also among the workers, because for the workers it would mean completely changing the way they work. So they really try to work together, elected people, technicians, citizens, and they did some trainings for the workers. That is also really important, because everybody can spray pesticides, but not everybody can really work in a garden, and that's a completely different way of working. So they really put money into trainings. And also, they pull together tools, practices, they exchange. The cities that are next to another, they had tools shared together. They had, oh, you do like this and I do like that, or maybe I could try this way, and that's also really important. And in the end, they choose their alternative method to weed. There are a lot of different alternatives to do it. And today we have a lot of pesticide-free towns. The map here is a map from our campaign. The greener it is, the more pesticide-free they are. And this is a map that where we are asking towns to register and to tell them where they are regarding pesticide use. So the white spaces, it's not because they use pesticide, it's just that maybe they didn't hear about our campaigns. But we know that there are more than 3,000 towns that are reducing their pesticide use, and we know that there are more than 1,000 that are already pesticide-free. So as you can see, there are a lot of initiatives. We have this campaign, but there are also the charters, the regional charters, where NGOs are helping towns to go pesticide-free, and they are giving them the 1B, 2Bs, 3Bs. And if one town has 3Bs, the town next to it will want to be also 3Bs, and will go further with the reducing use of pesticide. The red one, it means that they use pesticide. Some of them answered that they use pesticide on a regular basis. And we also have other actors such as NGOs that are really working with the towns to help them go pesticide-free, such as Plantécité or Nature Pareil. Those are the NGOs working with the towns. But also the national government played a role, because the Ministry of Environment really got engaged in the pesticide-free campaigns, because it was inscripted in the law also, but still they did something. They did some national campaigns focused on non-professional gardeners and on towns so that they could reduce the use of pesticide. You can see those two are posters from campaigns from the national government. And also in 2014, the Minister of Environment, Ségolène Royal, who is really against pesticides, she launched a national label called Terre Saine, where the towns that are labeled Terre Saine are really zero pesticide. They are pesticide-free totally, even sports field, even cemeteries. everything. And now there were one ceremony of labeling. I think they labeled more than 400 towns, and there will be another one before the end of the year. I think they're going to label more than 100 new cities, and there will be others. And we also have now inscripted in the law, in the French law, that from the 1st of January 2007, all cities will have to be pesticide-free. So that's a law that was passed in 2014. It says that the town will have to stop using pesticide by January 2017, and then the non-professional will have to stop buying pesticide, and pesticide will be forbidden to buy for the private individuals. So that's a really good thing and a really big thing. The only problem is that some areas are not concerned by the law, and also that there won't be any money sanctions if a city doesn't still use pesticide. So we don't really know how this is going to work from the next 1st of January on. But still, it's written in the law, and the more towns are going pesticide-free, so we know that it's going to get bigger and bigger, and if more and more cities starts it, then we'll reach all cities pesticide-free in France in a few, maybe years. So that's a good thing, and that's a few slides about our campaign that is called, in French it's better, it's called Zéro Phyto 100% Bio, which means pesticide-free, 100% organic. And we are trying to encourage, promote, and take inventory of good practices regarding pesticide-free, but also about introducing organic products in canteens. And we are trying to call out the bad ones. So we did the map we have on pesticide-free and also on organic canteens. We are trying to help every city to do better. We have a toolkit that it's here. It's only in French, but maybe one day we can translate it in English. That's helping the cities to know how they can become pesticide-free and how they can put organic products in their canteens. And we have a website for the campaign also. And the next step is that we're going to launch a movie. We are working with a French film director that already filmed everything, and we did a crowdfunding that ended last Tuesday. We got over 73,000 euro to, it's big, to promote the movie, and it means that we're going to be able to put it in a lot of movie theater all around France to talk about this subject, to convince more and more towns to go pesticide-free, to convince more and more towns to have organic products in their canteens. And the movie will be ready for next March. Maybe one day we can put subtitles, English subtitles, I don't know, but that would be also a good thing. And we will be proud.